Hello, welcome back to theCUBE. We are here in New York City for NRF Media Week. I'm John Furrier, host of theCUBE with Bob LaLiberte. He's out on the floor with theCUBE Research. Dave Vellante will be in here tomorrow. 3 days of coverage. Larry Lunetta's here, VP of HPE Networking, you back at Enterprise. Larry, great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Great to be here.
We'll see you guys at HPE Discover coming up this year. Can't wait. I think it's going to be our 14th consecutive HPE Discover. HPE, now HP, now HPE. Quite a journey it's been in the computer industry these days.
Well, yeah, the latest innovation was weaving the networking business into Discover, and we did that very successfully last year. We inaugurated the Sphere from a business standpoint, so a lot of good things happened.
Yeah, it's great stuff. We've been following the HP networking for a long time. Obviously, you know, telco, industrial edge, IoT, retail is a huge edge, huge market. It's a big market. You're starting to see, you know, it's been around for a while as a connected point, but now as an edge, but now as it gets more intelligent, you know, the intelligent edge, in quotes, has been around for a while, but now with AI and everything else, the business pressure to make things go faster, more actionable. The apps are getting smarter. You got agents coming soon. You got big companies like Amazon pushing just walk out, which kind of leaves the impression of things are just magically going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's all great, but at the end of the day, packets got to move from point A to point B.
That's right. and if there's no network, retail doesn't work anymore.
So the retail show's going on. I love this show. I've always liked it as an edge. Hasn't really hit the mainstream. This year, I think we're at the beginning of NRF, I call it mainstream tech. Because it was always about retail, how to merchandise stuff. There's a tech component, but I think now with the AI wave and the bubble, people are energized. And so that's putting a lot of pressure on the architects of saying, okay, are we ready? Do we have the security posture? Are the speeds and feeds meeting our minimum thresholds? These are the kinds of questions that are now on the table. And then, by the way, who's collecting the data?
Exactly.
So again, this is networking. We're back to basics.
That's right.
This is where we were.
You know, it's,
distributed computing, hello.
Well, as organizations reorganized for AI, and NVIDIA just released a report saying 90% plus, not surprising, of retailers are investing in AI. It's not just about the servers with the GPUs. They have to have the match-up network in order to capture the data, deliver it to where it needs to go.
You know, at HPE Discover every year, Dave Vellante and I and our team, we always talk about how the systems are now the thing. And it's always been an infrastructure, networking, storage, and compute. Now you got GPUs, you mentioned XPUs, all kinds of compute paradigms are here. Okay, now put them back together, now this distributed computing, we're back full circle, it reminds me of the 90s. It feels like we're back in the 90s again. So retail is a sweet spot. Healthcare and retail kind of, in my opinion, kind of look the same. Nascent industries from a tech perspective, more opportunities to innovate, but kind of, I won't say laggards, but you know, always had different data policies, and they were kind of there, but like they were still relevant, but now with AI, those are being fully rebooted.
Well, they look similar because a lot of the data is coming from IoT. From things, right? In the medical world, it could be diagnostic machines and things like that. In retail, it's sensors, it's cameras, it's scanners. You know, there's IoT is flooding onto the network, and one of the strengths that we bring, especially with wireless, is our wireless access points are designed to provide the best connectivity for IoT the market can get. Not just physical connectivity, but also the performance.
Yeah, and one of the things that's not talked about much in the AI world, it is inside the ropes, is multimodal. You mentioned cameras. Computer vision is going to be a big deal. Obviously a lot of bandwidth required to go there, a lot of thinking around that. So retail can be transformed. So I have to ask what you guys are doing at HPE for being retail ready with the tech. What are some of the things you guys got going on?
Well, it's across the portfolio, so I'll start with the network. And we do business with most of the leaders in retail across the industry, whether it's big box, quick serve restaurants, e-tailers, even large public venues like stadiums, right? So we get a lot of input in terms of shaping our product direction. So we come pretty much out of the box ready to support retail. But at the show this week, we're featuring a couple of enhancements beyond sort of the standard product that focuses on, as I mentioned, better IoT connectivity, better IoT security, AI to support some specific AI retailer use cases. And then on the flip side, you mentioned servers, right? Increasingly, that data is processed at the edge. So we just announced a very compact, environmentally easy server that packs a GPU punch that can be installed in a local store to process that video that's coming out of those cameras.
Yeah, it's funny, the computer industry, we were joking before we came on camera about, we've seen a few waves of these innovations. Companies usually have core competencies. Oh, I'm great at servers, but not really good at networking. We know that they are, HP's always had good core competency in all the areas, storage, networking, and compute, and servers. Now with retail, there's more demand. What are some of the news announcements you guys have right now? Because, at the end of the day, I want my user experience to be great. So I need speed, low latency, because AI is doing multimodal, so there's language models. I just was interviewing a company here this morning around using Gen AI to change how they get SKU information for tagging on analytics. So you're seeing every area of the retail value chains innovating with AI, which is going to put more pressure on the network.
That's absolutely right. And interestingly enough, one of the key themes at the show, and I can show you, is RFID. And now merchandise is flooding into the store.
You got props in your pocket, look at that.
Starting with the suppliers, and this is how you track your merchandise now. So those are unique for every piece of merchandise.
This is real.
This is real, those are RFID tags. And basically, you can scan them and track merchandise as it runs through your supply chain and all the way out to the consumer.
All right, so the use case for this is stick it onto the product.
Right, and then capture that data wirelessly and then move it through the inventory system, move it through the loss prevention system, the shrinkage prevention system, and also make the personal shopping experience more unique, right? So that's where the data's starting. That's one of the new trends. But what we're introducing at the show, as I mentioned, new access points, Wi-Fi 7, leading edge, that have great IoT connectivity, a new switch that matches up with that new DL145 server I just talked about, half width, put two of them in a rack, 100 gig, can really move video, especially into those servers for processing. And then some specific AI capabilities around tuning the network for the retail environment.
One of the things when I talk to other entrepreneurs and other companies that are in the customer satisfaction kind of area, the theme of listen to the customer. You can't help but observe a customer when you're watching them.
That's right.
Video is a killer app for that. You can see they look at the price and walk away with a frown on their face. That's actually language.
It is.
Right, so you capture that. So as you look at this, density matters. So you mentioned Wi-Fi 7, 5G. What are some of the latest advances on that? Can you just share some speeds and feeds, just like in terms of the impact? What does that mean for the customer? Faster data, more dense?
Yeah, so Wi-Fi for a while has provided guest access in the store adequately. Where it now has to provide better performance is, like I said, with IoT and things like that. Interestingly enough, it's Wi-Fi at the front of the house, right, with customers and things like that. And then you look at the warehouse where there are robots and things like that, it's private 5G, because you need, like you said, lower latency, broader coverage. So we're seeing a mix of different types of wireless protocols. And then finally, if the network goes down, the store goes down, right? So we've just introduced a public cellular bridge, nice little small box that if you can't get to broadband, the broadband connection gets cut, you can use public cellular to continue to get to the cloud and other transactions.
It's interesting, Larry, you mentioned factory and back on the supply chain, mentioned robots. I instantly went to CES, robots with a rage, okay, and robots are coming. Jensen Huang he threw a lot of haymakers in his keynote, but for the most part, robots are there. He did put a wet blanket on quantum. I thought that was a little bit over the top, in my opinion, but when you talk about manufacturing and supply chain and retail, it's not always obvious to the average person, that it's an end-to-end construct. And one of the things that's clear to Dave and I and our team is that in the AI wave, it's end-to-end. The workflows are end-to-end. So the old days of that's not my department is over. What's your reaction to that, and what's your perspective on thinking systematically as an end-to-end
Well, that's what's reinventing the shopping experience, especially in a store, right? So yeah, it's interesting. Turns out my brother-in-law is in the grocery business, and I saw him last night, and we started to talk about what he uses in his stores, and he's got robots in the aisles, right? This is not coming, this is here, because...
Like robots stacking supplies.
No, this is surveilling
the RFIDs or inventory.
Exactly. What's on the shelf? Is it in the right place? Does it match the counts that we have? You know, do we need to change it, right? He uses electronic shelf labels, right? So there are a lot of things that customers are going to see just happen that some may look strange, like the robot, and others are going to go, oh, that's cool. You know, I can see the price a little easier. Promotions can be generated on those tags and things like that. So,
and by the way, I'm a user. I have a phone.
Yeah.
I have a device. I could maybe interface with product.
Yeah, exactly. But you don't even need that now, right? Because that information is being brought out. It's being brought out to the shelf.
Yeah.
You know, in the form of messages on the shelves and things like that. So the shopping experience is going to get a lot more efficient, right? It's going to get a lot more efficient for the associate because they're going to have a handheld device that they can do inventory tracking, they can find lost merchandise and things like that, they can communicate with their coworkers, all in a single device. It's kind of like a Swiss Army device.
I can't wait for the holograms to pop up. John, good to see you back again.
There you go.
You got robots want to have holograms, help me with my purchases.
Yeah, so it's efficiency for the associate, which is really, really important. And it's efficiency for the shopper because they get better information. You don't buy it online thinking it's in inventory and show up and the associate says, I can't find it, right? Yeah. That goes away because of the interconnected systems in the store.
You know, this is why I love this retail show. We tend not to cover the shows if it doesn't cross into our cube, our little prism of how we look at the world. But this is operations. You talk about operations. Yeah, the user experience is great. We love talking about user experience. Don't get me wrong, we love that. But we don't really cover the best new merchandising strategy.
Right.
That's not what we do. But we love IoT. We love robots. Yeah, we love tech.
So do stores because that's what's allowing them to get more share of wallet, reduce shrinkage, and make, like I said, their associates more efficient. So if their associates are doing less manual work, they're spending more time where? With customers, right?
Yeah, we've been doing theCUBE 15 years now. I think it's our 16th year. Every year, when Stu Miniman was here, he's now at Red Hat, he and I were the network nerds. Now we have Bob LaLiberte, which he and I were geeking out last night. We always say, this is the year of networking. Every year is the year of networking, right? And all kidding aside, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to whether it's security or performance, the network is where the source of truth is, and that's where the latency is.
Right.
Because you can't change really the laws of physics. Yeah, Wi-Fi 7 is great, but networking is where the action is.
Well, it is, and it's never seen, right? You don't see it, can't feel it, can't touch it, but if it's not there, you know immediately, right? And the other big trend is how AI impacts networking. Yeah. So there's AI for networking and networking for AI. Yeah. So I talked about the networking for AI, the switching that matches up with these GPU-laden servers to move the information in for inferencing or training, whatever it happens to be. Well, let's turn it around, AI for networking. Improving the network administrator's efficiency. Yeah. And we have built a whole range of AI capabilities in HPE Aruba Networking Central. It's our network management system, right? So one of those is particularly interesting to retail, and we're highlighting it this week. As retail pushes their Wi-Fi signals out, put access points under the eaves for the parking lot and things like that, there's a phenomenon that occurs called passerby traffic. And when you walk by a store, you're not necessarily trying to connect to the network, but your phone doesn't know that. So they're looking for signals. That tugs on the network. Yeah. And we've seen like up to 40% of our retail customers have that problem. So we built an AI model to detect that condition and make recommendations on changing the settings so you cut down the passerby
So you make
traffic.
the access point smarter because it now knows this is really not a user looking to connect.
Exactly.
It's a packet just trying to get into whatever's beaconing to it or whatever the air interface is, or the transceiver.
Get this for the ROI. We've seen up to 25% improvement in network performance after those changes are made. So think about that.
That's
huge.
Like
getting another 1/4 of your network for free.
That's like a car driving through the parking lot just randomly that clogs up everything, but they don't want to go there.
Exactly.
It's like, why clog the roads up
Exactly.
if you don't have to?
Yeah.
Just stay in your lane.
Right. So AI for networking, networking for AI, we're extremely well positioned for both of those. And it's not just retail, obviously, but it's, the example I gave you is very much retail.
Well, that also highlights our riff on the whole operational impact, because not only does that operational impact change the role of the network administrator and the architects, it actually saves the network.
Yeah.
Which is time and money too. All right, let's get into the network security piece, because one of the things you mentioned, integrating into the model, some of the models.
Yes.
Now you got computer vision, you got language models, you're tightly coupled in there. You got some AI interaction. Security is a huge concern.
Very
Prompt
much so.
injections and inference. Is that going to be context poisoning as an issue? There's a slew of things around security that people kind of, I won't say forget about it, but they need to have peace of mind.
Right.
What are you guys doing with IoT security? Because again, to your point about accessing the network on the drive-bys or the flybys, whatever you call it, passerbuyers, the same thing could happen from a threat actor.
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to inject.
Yeah, the bad guys love IoT because they're vulnerable.
Give us the IoT perspective.
So, since you've been watching us for a long time, that security's always been a priority for the network for us, right? And we call it security first networking. And we believe very much that the network has to be a security partner for whatever organization. So what are we doing for IoT? One of the problems is a lot of IoT shows up outside the purview of IT. They don't even know they're there, right? So there's a concept called zero trust, right? Which means that anything that comes onto the network should get only the access it needs and no more, right? Well, you have to know it's there before you can assign a policy. So what do? We use AI to find rogue devices. So we see them, we fingerprint them, we assign a policy, and we enforce that access policy throughout the network. So if a bad guy does compromise an IoT device, and
you isolate it right away.
Absolutely, it's firewalled out. There's no beachhead to go attack the rest of the network. And we added some new AI this year to watch the behavior. So we've introduced behavioral analytics. So it's not just the device gets on the network. We can flag if it's all of a sudden the camera's talking to the payroll system. Why is that? That shouldn't be happening.
That doesn't compute. You're in the wrong. Stay in your lane.
Exactly. So we prevent that. But if it happens that they get out of their lane, we can find it, flag it, and deal with it.
Zero trust actually has been really strong paradigm for the perimeterless environment we live in. This is kind of where we are. What's the next step in security and just overall networking? And again, like you said, hiding, you got to at least movement is key. Lateral movement, look at lateral movement.
Right.
Network sees everything.
Exactly.
So this is where the opportunities are. What's next?
Well, I think mining that data lake, basically, making AI for networking more efficient, reducing truck rolls, reducing time to troubleshoot, optimizing the network, all of those things are going to just continue. On the networking for AI side, again, as things move to the edge, you're going to see customized switches and other capabilities that match up with those compute resources.
Larry, you might not know this, but I started my career at IBM for a few years, and I worked at HP for 9 years.
Wow. Okay.
Back in the late 80s, early 90s. So I said, we feel like we're back to the 90s. And I remember clearly at that time when TCP/IP came out, it was open standard, changed the game.
Yes.
It moved us to a heterogeneous interoperability world.
Right.
So we're now in that world full circle, distributed computing. We just talked about that earlier. Now you have all these new paradigms. You guys are building AI to modernize all the high velocity, a lot of scale. We're now in a world where you have to interoperate.
Exactly.
Okay, so now this opens up more modern versions of interoperability, cohesion. You got supply chains, but guess what? There might be different companies. So that's a networking challenge.
Right.
What's your perspective on this whole?
That's where our RFID comes in, because you can count on at least that kind of information, and what's behind that, sort of the lingua franca of the whole supply chain. But the interesting thing is, you mentioned TCP/IP. A lot of these IoT devices don't speak that. The shelf labels, they're 900 hertz, special purpose protocols. So
licensed spectrum or unlicensed?
Unlicensed.
Okay, so it's open.
Right, it's open, but the point is, standard wireless access point doesn't support that. Ours does,
Okay.
right? So one of the trends is going to be continuing to operate in a polyglot protocol environment with these IoT devices, and more are going to keep flooding on the network. So yes,
so centralized data, having more intelligence,
exactly,
seems to be the key there.
That's exactly right. And the retailer, sorry, needs to get more share of wallet, grow revenue, reduce costs, increase ROI, and again, the robot doesn't roll, the sensor doesn't sense. The scanner doesn't supply information if the network isn't there.
Retail's got robots, it's got AI, but the game is still the same. I'm coming looking for something, I need to buy it.
Right.
I need to browse, prospect, find what I'm looking for, maybe get a surprise and delight, maybe pick up some candy on the way out, or sweets or whatever, Vice, I have, if it's grocery. This is the world we live in. What's the big change that you see this year at NRF going forward with retail? Is it more of a tech show? Is it going to still be balanced? How would you kind of scope?
So that's a great point. I think 10 years ago, if you went to NRF, almost all the booths and all the displays were about managing inventory or whatever the current retail solution was. Now you walk the show and all the technology companies are there. So retail is becoming a technical play, right? And the CIO and the CISO are as important to retailing as the merchandisers.
It's a data play, and the data needs to run on networks, wireless, wired, whatever protocol makes it work at the edge.
Exactly, and increasingly
it's like last
at the
mile.
edge. Right. It's hard to ship video to the cloud and actually get it back and get conclusions back in time to do something with it. So,
well, Larry, great to have you on theCUBE. As always, great to have HPE on. It's fun. Obviously, we're here for retail, but like I said, this is an edge. And this applies to healthcare. Again, great point on your call out there. It's IoT devices, mobile operators, they're suppliers to retail, they're networking. So you guys have been in this world. Is there a master plan emerging, taking all of you've seen many cycles of innovation, you've seen the waves. Is there a pattern emerging that you see that's consistent across all industries right now from a networking perspective?
Well, we talk a lot about what happens at the edge all the way into the cloud, right? So it takes a network that has everything from local wireless access to wide area connectivity to the cloud. And then, HPE, as you know, is very strong in hybrid cloud. So I think that's the difference between distributed computing 20 years ago and today. It's an integrated system, right?
GreenLake, you got the GreenLake.
That's where GreenLake fits in, right? So GreenLake will allow a customer to put something in the cloud, something in a data center, something local, and have it all work together and be able to manage it seamlessly.
I think HP was the first company, before even HPE existed, to actually use the word hybrid, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and it's a big part of our business now, and it used to be everything was going to the cloud. Not so fast. People were starting to bring things back, and as we just talked about.
One of the luxuries of doing this for 15 years, I can say, Ivan, you were the first one that said that, and you didn't say that. This is very cool, and I think one of the things that we're excited about coming up to MWC, in fact, I'll use you as a mentor to mentor me on MWC coming up, because that's going to be a very big show this year too. We already identified supercomputing 4 years ago, theCUBE, as an AI show before HPC flipped fully HPC now for the masses, which is basically AI infrastructure. What should I be looking for, Larry, at MWC, in your opinion, at theCUBE? What should we be scouring to kind of connect the dots around these industry verticals running on a hybrid distributed infrastructure? Because at the end of the day, it's operations, it's not fashion. It's not like public cloud this. It's like, I got to run my ops. What should I look for?
I think for service providers, especially those in the telco part, there's two things. There's what they use to deliver their own services, right? And then increasingly, what they deliver for the enterprise. So they're customers of ours, right? And they take solutions like private 5G and install those alongside of whatever others networking solutions the customer has. So I think you're going to see more and more at Mobile World Congress is the service providers looking for people like us to help them deliver those products and services.
It's an end-to-end. Again, end-to-end workflows I've been saying it for 4 years now, and now everyone's realized this is a systems game. This is not a tool game. You can buy boxes, Well, they got to work.
Right.
A polyglot protocol, you said. Great to have you on, Larry. Not too bad for our new CUBE studios here east here.
I love
huh?
it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a great venue and great
We
opportunity.
got Palo Alto and here connecting tech and business.
Wow.
We'll see a lot more coverage. First, we'll see you at HPE Discover. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate
look
it.
forward to
Thank
that.
you. All right.
Good to see you.
Larry's in the house here. HPE, again, been doing networking for a very, very long time. We've been covering it, and more AI for networking and networking for AI is the dynamic. It's impacting all industries at the app level, all the way down to actually the platform itself, which is distributed computing. Of course, theCUBE's got you covered. I'm John Furrier, your host. Thanks for watching.